everybody, and welcome back to day 2 at E3 2019. I'm Andrea Renee. We, of course, have lots of amazing content for you at the Facebook gaming stage. And joining me right now from Infinity Ward is Joel Emsley, the studio art director, to talk about Call of Duty Modern Warfare. What an impressive reveal you guys had last week. Lots of fans being like, what is this game? Is it a reboot? Is it a remake?
Lots of very energetic fans
Sure.
who are trying to get every piece of information they could possibly get, and it's like we can't get information out fast enough. But yeah, it's not a reboot. Like, we've been being asked that a lot. It's a reimagining, and I wouldn't go too deep into this because we've talked about it a lot. But it's more akin to like Nolan's Batman or Casino Royale. Basically, the Modern Warfare series ended on nuclear war, and it became you're left with an alternate reality. So we tried to consider a sequel early on, but it wasn't going to give us the creative freedom that we needed to really tell a new story in the Modern Warfare universe.
Well, I think that it's such a really fascinating direction to go, because clearly Call of Duty has been a staple in video games for the last decade, right? The largest entertainment property in the world, and all the crazy numbers that Activision likes to tout because you guys are just that popular around the globe. So I think it's a really cool idea that you as a studio are like, you know what, we're going to maybe set the tone a little bit differently this time, do something darker, something grittier. I had the opportunity to talk with you a couple of weeks ago up at the studio, and the thing that I loved about the presentation is you guys said it's Jaws, not Saw.
Yeah, we've been experiencing that a little bit this week, where we get to show the game behind closed doors and get to look at people's reactions and stuff. And we're in a calibration phase where we're about to lock things up, and it's great to get a reaction and like first impressions on that stuff. But you walk a tightrope when you're trying to tell a dramatic story with a narrative, and you're trying not to disgust. And that's why we say, if you remember Jaws, you never saw the shark until the end, and it wasn't high on gore. It was more like how Tarantino would do something, how you could suggest something, and you get a lot more with people's imaginations than you do with just showing it and being gratuitous and disgusting. So we're trying to get that fine balance in between the two, so that you get an emotional reaction to the story and what's happening, but you're not kind of going overboard and getting to this point where you're disgusting people with it. So
absolutely.
It's an interesting, and you're talking about, it's a first-person shooter, and there's equipment and things that are happening in the game that are really visceral and powerful and extreme, and it's incredible. You're trying to balance all that out, make sure it's more Jaws, and make it a fun first-person shooter at the same time. Get all the mechanics and everything right as well.
Yeah, I definitely don't envy that position, because when I walked away from that demo after having watched, the special ops team go through that flat in London after the terrorist attack, I mean, I had emotions.
Yeah, it's weird.
Conflicted.
Yeah, and that level of change. I've said this before, but we were discussing last time we spoke about how that changed the way we build things, and how we started bringing reality capture into the game to get that sense of claustrophobia and turn a moment that is kind of it could have been just a rock'em sock'em, like pop and lock type of a situation, and we changed it into almost like a Halloween, like an action house. You're going through these things, and it feels very claustrophobic, and you don't know what could jump out at you. So you're trying to take something that's kind of old hat and a little bit kind of expected, and turn it on its head and make it new.
Absolutely, and we have some of the footage here from the reveal trailer that you guys released, but I also wanted to talk a little bit about, this idea of these two factions that we're going to be seeing. We have these Tier 1 operators and these freedom fighters, and kind of the dichotomy between that. Because as you mentioned, you guys are kind of towing this line between really wanting that realism, that kind of gritty authenticity of what Modern Warfare truly looks like, but also it's still a game at the end of the day. And balancing that, and I think it's a really interesting dichotomy between the two. So from your perspective, was there a challenge with one more than the other? I mean, obviously you guys have a lot of experience with the style of the Tier 1 guys, so was that easier for you, or did that mean it was more of a challenge for you going into this?
I think it was a welcome challenge. I think that you have a lot of reference for Tier 1 stuff. You can go and research everything, like the night vision. We went and had a history of night vision we could go back and look at. But when it comes to the guerrilla tactics and the things that happen on, let's say it's like I guess they call it like asymmetric warfare or whatever it is, where one side is, we're talking more, they're low tech and it's more about tactics and guerrilla and improv. And they get improvisational with the equipment. So it's challenging, but it's a welcome challenge because you get to be really creative with, it's almost DIY equipment. And you start thinking outside the box, and how would someone approach, like, how would someone that doesn't have super crazy high-end tactical gear breach a door? What would that look like? Or what would a drone look like if you just kind of built it here and used it for this or that, or observations and stuff? So it got to the point where we started getting really creative. We even set up a model shop in the I would say like the production art department, and we got scrappy. We started, it's almost like Apollo 13. We had all these parts, and we said, okay, here are your parts. Make something that does this thing for gameplay. And I think that's really fun. You get, the best part about doing a modern warfare game is that it's now, and you can gather things that we relate to. Like I can grab a water bottle and turn it into something. Like let's say I grab an oil filter and turn it into a suppressor. That's kind of interesting, and it kind of changes the look and maybe the gameplay a little bit as well.
Absolutely. I thought it was so fun hearing about all the cool tech that you guys are working with. I think what's awesome about the idea that Call of Duty has been so successful is that it allows you to have these cool tools to work with to do the next piece of innovation in the game making process. So while we got to see the presentation, you talked about micro tiling.
Yeah.
And this is a technology that I had never really heard about at all.
It was news to me when I saw it, and then there was another version, like its predecessor was called detail mask or detail tiling or detail maps. And what micro tiling does is it's the next iteration of that type of tech where the game is so intimate and you're able to do moves where you're able to mount up on the side of a corner of a wall or a windowsill or something. It's horizontal and vertical, vertical and horizontal. And when you get that close to the environment, you need the fidelity to be there too. But you also don't need to keep it in memory. So the way it worked was you get right up on it, and as you get up on it, it loads in. And it's just a little repeating, captured texture that goes into the grain, the wood grain, or the plaster or whatever. And as you move away from it, it's kind of loaded out or unloaded. So it's incredible, but you need that fidelity. The game is so, at points, claustrophobic. You could be crawling around in the grass. You need to see that fidelity. You could be in a house, in a townhouse or something, or a factory or whatever. You're taking cover on these things and getting so close to them. You need that fidelity. It takes you from, let's say, I'm going to geek out for a second, like 16 pixels per inch, which is kind of common, up to like a 64 pixels per inch, which is near, it's photographic at that point. And you combine all the other layers and materials that our new engine does, it just starts looking photographic real, which is uncommon when you're that close to objects in games. Like being a first-person shooter really challenges the engine because you're like nose to nose with all these. You're even nose to nose with characters, so you have to get the pores down. You have to get the whites of their eyes and the moisture in the eyes themselves to look right.
Yeah, because otherwise you kind of are in that uncanny valley territory,
Yeah.
right? And then it starts to like break the suspension of disbelief, right?
Yeah.
So I thought that you were talking about a process with also the photogrammetry and all the other kinds of tech. I'm kind of geeking out a little bit because I thought the tech that you guys showed was so cool.
That became so fun because that enabled. I'm kind of a model maker, kit basher kind of guy. I like model kits and stuff, and so the photogrammetry kind of opened the door to approaching video game making in a different way, where I've done scale models, but on this game, I got to do one-to-one scale. So I'd be on the freeway. I think I told you about this.
Yeah.
I'd be on the freeway on my way to work, sitting in traffic, and I would see like a garbage pile, and I would go into the office and I would tell, we have a capture team that'll go out and get stuff for us at the studio. And I said, I'd go to maps and I'd point to the spot where I'd give them like the coordinates of where I saw the garbage pile is. And then it got really dodgy at one point because they got into it and they would be driving and say, I saw this disgusting mattress on the side of the road, and I decided to drag it into the studio. And I'm like, dude, get that out of here. Like, scan it first, then get it out of here. But that really, using photogrammetry that way and being a little bit more creative and kind of, like a set dresser was really exciting for us. And it shows up in the game, and you get this very believable environment once we put that all together.
Yeah, I'm super impressed with everything I've seen. Clearly, Call of Duty has a history of these really cinematic campaigns, and so I'm so glad that you guys are working on one, because I missed one last year. I mean, I get, Treyarch has their style, and zombies are cool, but I love the campaign, so I'm really excited about it. But I'm going to just pivot for a second here, because you guys released some new screenshots.
We did. I've been dying to show something of multiplayer, and yesterday we showed ghillie suits are back in Modern Warfare in multiplayer. I'm the type of player that loves to when I have a character to choose from, I'm not the type of player that will choose like a fluorescent yellow hat and run around and destroy people that way. I'm not that good. So I need the advantage of concealment. So if I have the opportunity, something like a ghillie suit where I can crawl around in the bushes and blend in, that's for me. And so I think we showed that yesterday. And not only that, I mean, you're looking at a weapon that's actually has a custom ghillie wrap on it too. So we're kind of showing a little bit of an ensemble of being able to put together a loadout and show that you can match things up and make it all blend together. The other screenshot that we showed featured a juggernaut.
Yes.
I won't discuss how that happens or how that works in multiplayer, but the juggernaut is alive and well. It's actually, I designed the original juggernaut suit long time ago, which is actually really fun. But this time we wanted to make it more kind of real steel or real ground, more believable. So I did that in 1/6 scale kit bash. So there's a little juggernaut that exists back at the studio about yay tall.
Nice.
It was really fun to put it together because I challenged myself to use existing materials from different loadouts and kits and Kevlar plates and things, and just tried to put something together that kind of made sense. And then one thing I was really excited about when I was doing the screenshot was I asked along the way, I said, hey, it'd be really cool once you got up to juggernauts that you heard. I think there was a movie a long time ago where the guy was in an armored suit listening to like heavy metal, and he would crank it up while he was going crazy. I thought it'd be cool if you got close to these guys, you could kind of hear them coming, because you could hear like death metal coming out of like its headphones or something.
Amazing.
Whenever you got close to them, and it was funny when we were doing the screenshot, I had it up and they had it working. I didn't know they'd gotten it done until then, so they actually put it in.
So it's in the game.
Careful what you ask for, because I was listening to hardcore death metal for like an hour and a half, and I didn't realize you could just turn down the volume on it. But it was cool. It's a great detail, and it gives I think one thing that we're always working towards in these games in Modern Warfare is really memorable characters. Even like a juggernaut, they have details that make them stand out, and you can't forget them.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like a collector's edition item waiting to happen.
Collector's edition.
One for the marketing team, if you're listening, Activision.
We would have had to made that decision long ago.
I know, because the game's coming out relatively soon.
Yeah, October 25th, we're out. I mean, there's even more stuff that'll come out, in the meantime, and we're trying to release stuff as quickly as possible. We're locking the game up, getting it done. Really anxious to show more, but this has been our week. It's been a crazy week.
Well, congratulations on the reveal. Of course, I know everyone out there is anxiously awaiting more news on multiplayer, since that is a fan favorite mode, of course. But Joel, thank you so much for coming by the stage today and chatting with me. I'm looking forward to seeing more of Call of Duty Modern Warfare. And we have lots more content for you guys live from the Facebook gaming stage here at E3 2019.